Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about choosing your single speed and some decisions you need to make when going into building up or buying a complete single speed with, what you're going to use your single speed for. Originally, I thought of using a single speed as a way to not beat up my drivetrain in the winter because it gets a little rainy and muddy, and you beat up your drivetrain, you end up having to replace everything. So that's not so much in California because we don't really have a really thick, wet, rainy season here. We have a few rainy days sometimes. We get a spurt of a rainy week or something, but it doesn't. I don't think my whole time living in California, I don't think I've ever had more than 2 weeks of rain ever in my life. So it's not like we have months of rain where some of you guys live. So the other thing to think about is, how do you want to build it up for something that's going to be substantial, something that you feel that is going to get that power into it and out of it as a single speed should be. I mean, I think you need to consider it needs to be a little bit light because you don't want to be riding up the trail on a heavy single speed. There's other things I want you to think about too, and it also depends on where you live, and that's bottom bracket. And I've talked about this before, and you've seen me mention this in some of my other videos about my bottom bracket dilemmas when I was going with cranks that required 30mm spindles. Raised face cranks, some of the other cranks have 30mm spindles. I end up going back to Shimano because Shimano has a 24mm spindle, and I love it. It's been the best thing I've ever done because the larger bearings of the bottom bracket, because you have more room because you have a smaller spindle, makes for longer lasting bottom bracket. I was going through my other bottom brackets all the time, and I would get the best. I would get the White Industry. I would get the Hope. I would get. I don't think I ever got a King Creek one. I didn't get King Creek, the real expensive one. I didn't get the Chris King one, but I got some Wheels Manufacturing ones. I've got some other ones. I can't remember all the names, but I have a whole cabinet full of old bottom brackets that I was going to just press some new bearings in. Anyway, you go through them. The drive side wears out and it just gets crunchy. You can hear it, you can feel it, and it just doesn't last. The other thing to think about is wheels. Now, the easy thing to do is really just convert your regular wheel into a single speed by putting a bunch of spacers in there. But if you want to go a little more single speed specific, what you could do is you can get a single speed specific hub, and that's going to build up a wheel that's going to be center dished. Now, does that really matter? I mean, as long as it's sitting in the center of your stays and you could tuck it in really nicely, that's the biggest thing. And thanks to the guys at InCycle that trued and redished this for me, because I tried doing it myself and I messed it up. These bird spokes are a little bit above my skill set to redish them with those bird spokes. So they fixed it up for me. They did a great job. And having a center dish wheel, just like your front wheel is more center dish because you don't have a big cassette on front, is a stronger wheel. And it's going to be more immediate engaged with power too, because you're not going through a derailleur and all that other stuff. So having a stiffer wheel when it comes to compliance with the lateral stiffness makes a big difference. You don't want it to be vertically too stiff because you want it to have some give. That's why we have spokes. But you want it to be laterally or horizontally stiff. So that helps out a lot, and that's something to consider. It would be a new wheel, a new rear wheel if you were going to do that. And there's not a huge need to do that, but it's just something to think about. I would always do a single speed with a dropper post, but I have done single speeds where I didn't have a dropper post and I just drop my post when I got up here, because my mountains are pretty much straight up and then straight back down. So I get up here, I drop my post, I'm fine, I don't have to lift it back up. Now that I have a dropper post, I do lift it up on a couple of the pedally sections, but before I just dealt with it and just left it down. So that's another thing to think about. You want to have brakes that are good. The reason is, I mean, every bike should have good brakes, but the reason is when you're descending in a single speed, your goal is to brake less, but have confidence that you could brake last minute and just shave off just enough speed to keep that rolling momentum. So have some real good brakes. I really love Shimano brakes. That's been my go-to brand, but there's some other brands that are out there that I think make really good brakes. I know how to work on Shimanos. They work out great for me, so I like Shimanos. So that's the other thing to consider, is getting, if you're going to build up a single speed, build up a single speed that's going to have that brake that gives you confidence to really just peg it and take advantage of those sections where you don't want to touch your brakes at all and then wait till the last minute to brake. So I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to get ready to descend. It's beautiful outside, and I'm looking forward to a second day in a row being up here at the top of Brown and getting ready to descend.